IVM.
Hello and welcome to Football Twaddle. Game week 5 is done, and as always, I have Kumar Kanav with me. What's up?
Hey, and as usual, currently,
And as always,
we don't have Tanuj again with us.
we don't even know his whereabouts anymore. Let's say he's in...
Cambodia.
Yes, he's in Cambodia doing some promotional work for the podcast. Yes, so game week 5 is done. Kanav, let's start off with the game of the week, which probably is Bournemouth versus Leicester. But let's talk about...
Or like Everton versus West Ham was pretty good.
Yes, but I thought we should talk about Spurs versus Liverpool. I thought that was the game of the... I assumed
It was
that would
supposed
be...
to be the game of the week.
Yes.
I think Tottenham probably is still, missing their stadium. Their
Really,
new stadium.
I don't think they're just missing the stadium. They're missing all their players also. They've lost 2 games in a row now.
Yeah,
and even in the first half against Manchester United, they should have genuinely been at least 2-0 down.
Yeah.
If not for Lukaku's first touch, second touch and third touch. And them being so tired showed so much in the game this time.
Yeah, and so I couldn't understand what was the problem. Harry Kane has not been in form. Dele Alli out. Probably.
Dele Alli's not been in form for like 14 months.
Yeah, but still he's the next Messi, right?
No, he's not.
Who's the next Messi now? Lingard.
I don't know. I don't know who is the next Messi, but Dele Alli is definitely not. And Liverpool played so well. The only problem I had is Mane now doesn't pass the ball to Salah, and Salah doesn't pass the ball to Mane.
So Salah, so I was noticing this also, that Salah this season he's been, isolated to the right. He's not been, cutting in. No, he always cuts in and takes a shot. But that movement inside which he used to make last season, that is gone.
Yes.
Which is a problem because I still have Salah in my team.
Dude, this is not fantasy episode.
so,
Get
yeah.
grips towards it.
No, so Salah is not, like, his involvement per match
Yes.
has gone down, and which is why you're seeing, more contribution from Firmino and Mane.
And
Probably good for Liverpool because, they're spreading the goals around.
And the number of chances missed by Mane in that game was amazing. But somehow, Wijnaldum scores.
Yeah, and it was, I remember the commenters were just mentioning that Wijnaldum has only scored in home games.
Yeah. So this was the first away game he scored in. And Liverpool pretty much had that game. The thing we need to talk about is Harry Kane tired or not tired? Or is his game? I think 2 weeks ago we were discussing on how Harry Kane basically, after the ankle injury, we were referring to that report in the Times, saying that his goals are all right, but his involvement in the game and the number of shots he takes have reduced considerably. And now he's played the World Cup as well. I don't think he's got a proper break from when he's burst onto the scene.
After the group stages, he was on a break during the World Cup as well.
Dude,
it's not like he put anything in.
Yeah, but he still played all the games, right? Yeah, so...
Just standing around for 90 minutes doesn't count as a workout.
You think now, since Tottenham had started a late preseason and 7 or 8 of their players were out for the World Cup, now and that is catching up to them?
No, but it's only a problem with... so when you see, their defense is pretty much sorted. Alderweireld and... Vertonghen are not facing problems as such.
Yeah.
Trippier has had a good start. They have a decent backup in, Rose is there.
Yeah.
Ben Davies is there. Aurier is there.
And there's... I know.
Yeah, defense-wise are sorted. I think they're just not creating enough. Attacking-wise, the 5 matches I've seen, I think Lucas Moura is the only bright spark you see. Because he's, always involved. He's trying to get into the mix of things.
Yeah, and we are recording this on a Tuesday. And if I read the report correct, I don't think Alderweireld and Trippier were taken for the game against Inter.
Yeah.
So clearly everything is not well at Tottenham, and add to it that they don't even have a stadium now.
The biggest problem is, I think, the form of Kane.
But how long does Pochettino take? Kane, if he doesn't perform, for 1.5 years, didn't we know that there's no other backup? Where's Fernando Llorente?
He's still there. He's on the bench.
And doing what?
But he's not. So when you consider the other teams that you have, Chelsea have Morata and Giroud.
Yes.
United have, Rashford and
Lukaku, Rashford, Sanchez. Anyone can play
Martial
there.
can play as a forward as well.
If he feels like, but yeah.
Then you come to City. You have Jesus and Aguero as top class striking.
Otamendi and John Stones and Ederson, everyone.
Yeah. Even Arsenal have Aubameyang, Lacazette.
Yeah, so where is Tottenham striking options?
Yeah, so even going forward, they depend a lot. Last season also, they were depending a lot on runs from the midfield from Dele Alli's head.
Yeah.
Right now, Dele Alli is out of form, is injured as well. Then Son has just come back from the Asian Cup, so I hope he gets back to that form, because last season he had a lot.
He was the guy who actually started this whole Tottenham run.
Unless Harry Kane gets back in form, I don't see the season going well. Because their dependence on Kane is very, very high.
Or do you think Harry Kane is doing the reverse now? Earlier he used to never score in August and start scoring September. Now he scored in August, so he'll take a September break and start scoring in October again now. He's too good a player he's too good a player to not score goals.
Yeah, no, but it's not just about goals. So he will still end up scoring goals. But his involvement, like you said, the first half against Liverpool, he had some 7 or 8 touches of the ball.
Yeah, man, that was so bad. If that performance was given by a Mourinho team or Manchester United, that's all we would have been talking about. They were actually quite bad. Anyway, so where next for Tottenham? Liverpool 5 wins on 5. They are probably the title favourites, I would say. Not even City.
No.
Come on. What more should they do to be called title favourites?
Beat at least one big team. It's fine. See, they've won 5 games.
They beat Spurs. Are you saying Spurs?
I've never counted Spurs as a big team.
All right. So if Liverpool beat, let's say, Chelsea.
Yeah. So getting at least 2 wins out of Chelsea, City, United, and Arsenal. Probably they'll run away with the game against Arsenal, but that's still fine. So they need to perform in those games.
Did you see Liverpool's next fixtures starting from the Champions League this week? They play PSG tomorrow night, and then
they play Liverpool B.
Yeah. Then they have Chelsea in League Cup and Chelsea in the league.
Yeah,
and then they have Napoli.
Then they have City.
So
it's a nice run of form.
Nice run of form or fixtures?
No, sorry, it's a nice run of fixtures for them.
Last year, I think in October or November, Liverpool basically gave up on the title chase. You think with this run of fixtures, by end of October, we'll come to know?
No, so this is when they have to prove themselves. So I'm leaving the EFL Cup aside, the game against Chelsea, but the 2 back-to-back, Premier League games against Chelsea and City, with an away trip to Napoli in between.
Yes.
These 3 games are going to define. If they even get 4 points out of these 6 in the league, I think they can be then counted as genuine title contenders. Yeah.
Yes, and one team which is doing quite well after the start of the season is Arsenal. They beat Newcastle 2-1. I don't think they played really well at all.
They've not started playing well. The first half was very, very boring. But second half again, that whole it feels like a machine which is just starting to which is being oiled and is just starting to pick up gears.
Yeah.
You see Arsenal play, and I do it I've seen all games under Emery, even the friendlies. You don't see that game plan yet, what Emery's trying to do, apart from that whole passing out from the back thing.
Yeah.
But going forward, it still feels like a Arsene Wenger team. It still feels like an Arsenal of the past 5-7 years.
Is Granit Xhaka the Rohit Sharma of Arsenal Football Club? He has one good performance and you play him for the next 20 games?
No, it's more to do with the lack of backup. I think now...
What do you mean backup? There's Lucas Torreira, there is
He's
Gundogan.
Not been starting Torreira. I think he was giving Torreira just a little ease-in window. I still feel, and whenever Torreira has come on in the second half in the past 3 games, Xhaka has played much better. So Xhaka needs
Torreira and
a defensive backup behind him. With Gundogan and Xhaka are very different, very similar players, sorry.
So why is he not starting Lucas? This is the 4th time I'm asking in 5 weeks of this podcast of this season.
This week there was some, he picked up an ankle knock away with Uruguay.
Is it a fake ankle knock or the real one?
The real one. He brought him, and the good thing about Emery is, he's making substitutions at the halfway mark. He's not afraid of doing that. He's bringing in change. And that change obviously worked. Second half, he played much better.
Yes. And one of the reasons why Arsenal played much better in second half is the man who's abused a lot, Mesut Ozil, was way more influential in the second half.
I think the team is still trying to figure out how to play under Wenger. Under Emery. It's been so long, you can't even get Wenger's name out of your head.
Yes. Let's talk about Mesut Ozil. 200 appearances for the club.
Yeah.
He probably has one of the highest goals plus assist ratio in the period he's ever been. In the period he's been in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And still people abuse him. And his lazy style of running attracts criticism for some reason. I don't know. What do you make of his 200 games at Arsenal?
I think his returns would have been much, much higher, the first 3 years if he had a good striking backup to Giroud. He used to create a lot of, chances. They have gone down over the last season as well. He's not been up to the mark last season. This season, the start has been, with everything going on in his personal or international life as such. But it's starting to pick up, and I think this is something we discussed when we were watching Germany.
Yeah.
In Moscow. Mesut Ozil is someone who...
Name dropping, country dropping, everything is going on right here.
Yeah, so I think I made that fact to you that, Mesut Ozil is a player who will never look good on camera because he doesn't, run around.
Yeah.
But when you watch him live in a stadium, you know what he's trying to do. He's always moving into those pockets of spaces, trying to create space for others to move into.
There was a player before Ozil who was probably as abused as him for seemingly not working so much was Berbatov.
Yeah.
The amount of abuse he used to get because they thought he was lazy.
Yeah, and he didn't run around like a Wayne Rooney when he was at United.
The last player who seemed lazy on TV and who got all the plaudits was Zinedine Zidane. Our man used to never run.
But that man is a different level. You can't compare Berbatov or Ozil to.
So Arsenal now have 3 wins out of
Arsenal,
5.
I think the first couple of games people went a little overboard with the criticism.
Who dude?
Everyone.
I sometimes wonder what we do at this podcast. We don't criticize anyone that much. We don't love anyone that much. We are like we are like, yeah, fine, whatever.
No, so there were a lot of stats coming out that Arsenal never lost their first 3 games of the season under Wenger.
Yeah,
Arsenal never played in
Chelsea and City
in the first 2 games.
Yes.
So you have to take those games with respect to the opposition. If Arsenal lost the first 2 games to say Huddersfield and Cardiff, probably the brickbats should have been out.
Who is Arsenal playing in the Europa League this week? No idea.
Even
you don't care about Europa League. Finally, you admitted it.
No, because they're not playing it this week.
Alright, anyway, who cares about Europa League? Let's talk about
Vorskla.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about a team which is firing all cylinders and keeping up with Liverpool and winning their games with ease, which is the Surrey ball Chelsea.
And you can, again, as a contrast with Arsenal, Chelsea from the first game you can see what Sarri has done with the team.
But you could also say that Chelsea were probably more coached under Antonio Conte and they have better players also than Arsenal.
Better players, if you take away Hazard, which is an exception.
There's Hazard, Willian, Pedro,
Willian and Pedro are...
Really? Willian?
Willian, Pedro. Would you say Willian and Pedro better than Ozil? Or Aubameyang?
Yeah, but those are 2. We are talking about Hazard, Willian and Pedro, 3. Plus there's Fabregas who will give Aspi type balls. The defense is much better. There's Marcus Alonso.
Better, yes.
In spite of Rudiger, they look much better. So, as a team overall, Chelsea probably is better. So but you could actually see what Sarri is like.
Yeah, you can see it from the first game itself. And they obviously, started gelling. They're playing well.
Yeah.
And Hazard is enjoying his football, which is always...
Yeah, it's an every alternate season thing. Oh, one thing before I forget. I was reading that all the 10 goals scored by Arsenal are by 10 different players.
Yeah, 9 different players and 1 is an own goal.
Oh, yeah. So 10 different players. Yeah. All the 10 goals. And now coming back to Chelsea... How good is Olivier Giroud giving those assists to Hazard now?
This is very surprising, till 6 months ago, everyone in the Premier League used to make fun of Giroud.
We still make fun of him, but...
No, now Chelsea fans are actually, seeing his value.
Dude, Chelsea
Even during the World Cup, he was criticized France when... So, Giroud...
I guess none of us were criticizing Giroud because we were so enamored by the well-groomed looks of Olivier Giroud.
He was facing a lot of criticism because of the way he plays.
Yes, but now...
Probably he doesn't score as many goals, but his contribution, the way he links up play.
Yeah.
And this is something we saw, I think the top 3 goals of Arsenal in the past 5 years.
Yes. Because of link-up play of
Giroud. And especially that goal, the Wilshere goal against Norwich, if you remember.
Yeah.
Which had 5-6 passes, just one-touch passes. Giroud had 3 of them.
And I think on Saturday, Giroud gave 2 assists to Hazard.
And Hazard came out and said also that, he's one of the best strikers he's ever played with.
Yeah, well, the
other Lukaku and Morata, so.
Yeah, Lukaku's first touch is...
It's a through ball for Hazard.
Exactly. So he should appreciate Lukaku. And Diego Costa used to make those runs. Giroud doesn't make the runs. Giroud just tries to provide this sly passes onto Hazard. And having said all that, now Chelsea are still 5 points on 5 games on 5. They're going on and Hazard scoring a ton load of goals. I think they are up. They can genuinely fight for the title now.
I think seems like it's going to be a interesting season. At least not as bad as last season.
Yeah, but then if this is a good season, we don't know what will happen the next season. And one more thing about Chelsea is they've had most passes in the league till date, way more than Manchester City also. So why do you think Sarri's tactics have been applied faster at Chelsea than Emery's tactics at Arsenal?
I think it's got more to do with how...
Jorginho.
Not Jorginho. Just one player doesn't... It's just players have been more willing probably to, adjust. With Arsenal, there's also a problem with Arsene Wenger that, he was someone who would just tell you to go enjoy football. There are not a lot of detailed instructions involved.
Like our PT teacher in school.
Yeah. So he would tell you what has to, but those detailed instructions, probably over a period of time, players don't get used to not having.
So it's a much lower base to start with for Unai Emery.
Yeah.
Oh, one more last thing about, so Chelsea we know are top, but one last thing about Arsenal before we take a break.
Yeah.
The big news which broke today, Gazidis is leaving Arsenal to most probably join AC Milan. October. So the man who started this whole project of changing the club post Wenger is leaving within 6 months of it.
I think this was more or less expected because Kroenke has taken over full control now. Josh is probably going to be the next CEO.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have fired Gazidis if there's no... They wouldn't have fired Gazidis. He resigned.
But to be honest, he's not added much value to the club.
What's with all you Arsenal fans? When we spoke to Vijay 2-3 weeks ago, when he said the same thing.
Yeah, so, when you get a CEO who's, being paid so much money, you're supposed to bring in more commercial value to the club, which has clearly not happened.
So Gazidis going is not really a big problem at all?
I don't think so. And especially with, Kroenke taking full control, I don't think Gazidis would have had much freedom to do whatever he wants.
All right.
Away from the Kroenke family, so yeah.
Oh, there you hear it, listeners. No one cares about Gazidis leaving.
I don't think any Arsenal fan does.
Yeah. Okay, we take a break right now. After the break, we talk about both the Manchester teams and two teams which are flying high, which is Bournemouth and Wolves. Stay tuned to Football Twaddle.
You know what it's been? Like every week has been an awesome week on IVM. This week on IVM, we got the 300th episode of Cyrus Says. To mark this milestone, Cyrus has an MTV VJ reunion with Malaika and Nikhil Chinnappa. Listen in for tons of laughter and nostalgia. You really, really don't want to miss this. 300 episodes. On the Scene and the Unseen, Amit Verma is joined by a farmer leader, Gunwant Patil, to discuss India's agricultural crisis and the state of farmers. On Know Your Kanun, lawyer and host Amber Rana helps us to understand the complexities related to the laws and rights regarding cruelty. Last week on the Pragati podcast, Pawan and guest host Shambhavi Nayak were joined by renowned scientist Dr. Kumarasamy Thangaraj to discuss the great genetic diversity of India. On the Kinetic Living podcast this week, Coach Urmi talks to stand-up comic and the host of Keeping It Queer, Naveen Narona, about his busy schedule and the struggle to create a fitness regime for himself. And as always, if you're not following us on social media, please make sure that you do. We are IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We do a lot of really interesting stuff over there. Also, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. We have this thing called IVM CCTV over there where we give you guys a glimpse into the studio. And with that, let's continue with your show.
Welcome back to Football Twaddle. As always, I have Kumar Kanav with me. Kanav, say hi again just for posterity's sake.
Hi.
All right. Manchester United bouncing back after 2 defeats with 2 victories with amazing 15 minutes in the first half. And then
it was a good performance apart if you take away the last
10 minutes.
Last 10 minutes, yeah.
Yes. And so they seem to be catching some sort of form. You know what was terrifying in that first half? Suddenly they look like a team of this massive giants who are is that the only team in Premier League which has 7 players who are 6'5" and above? I don't know who else.
Yeah, I think with Stoke getting relegated now.
There is Fellaini, there's Matic, there's Pogba, Lukaku, Smalling, Eric Bailly on the bench, there's Smalling. And talking about Manchester United's victory, what about the Marco Van Basten or Henry or anyone finished by Chris Smalling? You think that new haircut is what has influenced Chris Smalling?
Yeah, he looks like Eric Killmonger now. Taking classes from Black Panther. Probably went to Wakanda too.
What was that goal, man? Does anyone expect a defender to score such goals? That was the most amazing. And did you see the celebration? They clearly worked on it.
Probably didn't want to, spoil his head by going for the ball with his head.
Yes.
So he had to innovate.
No, that's amazing. And you should have seen the coaching staff celebrate. Like they actually, few things it looked like they were worked on it in training. Like now Fellaini doesn't stand in the box at a corner or a free kick. He runs in from deeper position. So these people are suddenly Fellaini has become the most important player for Man U.
But you've always maintained that, right? Fellaini is the most important player for any team he plays for.
Yes, I actually do believe that. I'm not a snob like you people thinking Fellaini adds no value to any team. I think Fellaini is actually quite good. What else do you think of the game? Watford, they would have had a club record of 5 games out of 5. But unfortunately, they met Marouanne, who was the man of the match again. Do you feel bad for Watford?
No.
Do you care for Watford?
Not since, Troy Deeney and his cojones comment.
Troy Deeney, poor guy. And David De Gea saves. What do you make of that?
I think the first
they seem like usual saves.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, especially in the second, the save he made in the 90th minute.
Yeah.
That was very dramatic. It was a very normal save. But
he didn't make it dramatic. It's the commentator who made it dramatic. It seemed like a regular David De Gea save. Who made it dramatic?
No, De Gea also made it a little dramatic.
By diving to the ball?
Yeah.
What are you saying? You shouldn't dive to the ball now.
No, you shouldn't. If the players can't dive, why are the goalkeepers encouraged to dive?
Really? This is what the arguments come down to. Yes. But do you think we now reached a stage where any save David De Gea makes you like,
it seems normal. No, it seems normal. It's normalized, spectacular saves so much.
Like how Messi scores goals.
Yeah, you expect David De Gea to save it. Except when he's playing for Spain. That is a different matter.
Yes, and the other half of Manchester, 3-0 against Fulham.
Going around their business. But now, you have to see how serious the injury to Aguero is.
What happened to him? I know he's injured.
Yeah, he picked up a knock. That's why he's subbed out at around the 50th minute mark also.
Yes, and I'll talk about it in the second podcast of this week on how that detrimental effect that has on few poor players like us. But Leroy Sané, after all the brickbats he gets, comes and scores.
Gets a start and scores the goal in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah, so what's all the fuss about?
There is no fuss.
Dude, there was such a big fuss. Tony Cruz comes up with statements. Pep Guardiola comes up with statements saying that his attitude has to improve and everything. There is no fuss. What is it?
I didn't see anything in the Amazon documentary.
That was for last year, dude, not this year.
Yeah, but you can't just have an attitude problem overnight.
Yeah, I mean, we did expect Fulham to lose, but I thought they'll at least score 1 or 2 goals. And Manchester City will score 5.
They or Mitrovic.
Yeah, Mitrovic is what I wanted. But they had some decent chances, but you couldn't say much. So now both the Manchester clubs are going around. And what we are more interested in talking about is a team which Baru is following, other than Arsenal.
Yeah.
Which is Wolves. Nuno Espirito Santos has created a small dynamite of a team.
It was a game which could have easily been, one of those 6-0, 7-0 scores.
Yeah.
The way Wolves were playing.
Wolves look so dangerous. Everyone played so well, especially the game against Burnley. Burnley looked so clueless.
I think Burnley's defense has...
What happened to Burnley's defense? Where is Mee? Where is Ben Mee and Tarkowski?
Still there. They're just like shadows of their last season self.
Yeah.
And this is not something, Sean Dyche was applauded for, the defense he had built in. I think probably getting into Europe got into their heads or something.
They've already played 12 games in the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, but talking more about Wolves, how good is Moutinho, Rui Patricio and all of the gang?
I think Moutinho probably not so much, but Neves is someone who's, very, very influential to this squad.
Yeah.
Because he builds up play from the back. Apart from him, I think... Doherty is a very good player.
Yes.
And someone who's, come up through the lower leagues.
So, Wolves, from all the 5 games we've seen...
This something which I noticed in the game also was, after they already scored their goal. So, they subbed on Adama Traore and the Burnley defense had no clue how to deal with him.
The pace, dude, he is so fast. Wolves have built a really good team. We can talk about the good or bad of how that team building goes. But unless they meet Fellaini, I don't think the real test of Wolves is done in the Premier League.
So you mean next week?
Next week. We don't do previews on this show, but I am telling you, Manchester United is going to beat Wolves with Marouanne Fellaini as one more man of the match. Don't you think so, Kanav?
I think if someone can defeat Wolves, has to be Marouanne.
Okay, and the last game we're going to talk about for the week is Bournemouth versus Leicester. And it screwed up my fantasy points quite a lot, but I will talk about it in the next episode. But Bournemouth are suddenly now 5th in the table. They're doing quite well. Josh King is scoring, Ryan Fraser is scoring, Callum Wilson is scoring, everyone is scoring goals for them.
I think Bournemouth have a little bit, gone under the radar compared to what Watford, the hype Watford has,
4 games in 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Bournemouth are they're just already 5th in the table. So what's the...
I think this is, if they can sustain this run of form. So see, if they can sustain this run of form against, teams around or below them, and put up a good fight against the top class teams, it's a chance to finish in the top 10.
Yeah. Oh, and before we go, Lucas Perez, West Ham picking up an important win against Everton, beating them 3-1.
Yeah, we said
there's a FA investigation opened against Everton on them tapping up Marco Silva. Yeah. So they have problems galore, and West Ham suddenly has 3 points, and their next 2 games are tough ones. They're playing Chelsea and I think United later. But so this was very important 3 points. Everything overshadowed by commentators saying that Lucas Perez...
Again a storm in a teacup.
Yeah, if you could tell what exactly happened.
Yeah, so Lucas Perez has come out yesterday with a statement saying, that he was asked by Pellegrini to warm up.
Yes.
He was about to... and he was just back from his warm-up stint.
Yes, and if I understand, they warm up in 5 minute batches of 5 minutes
at West Ham. And then by the time, Antonio was already warming up.
And
Arnautovic was injured, so he had to be subbed off immediately.
And Pellegrini
basically went for Arnautovic for Antonio over Perez.
Yes.
Which was taken by the commentators as a refusal to warm up.
I think what they saw Lucas Perez then shaking his head and speaking to the goalkeeping coach. And then obviously the grand old men of commentary or punditry, which is Andy Gray and Richard Keys, go on. Even Michael Owen chips in to say, that is the most unprofessional thing, everything. And for Michael Owen to say it is a bit rich, given what he said 2 weeks ago about him playing for Newcastle and others.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and even Pellegrini didn't have a problem. Do you think that we just because we need content, all of us need content, we over-dramatize everything now?
Yeah, I think it's just, like I said, it's been created by the commentators, picked up on Twitter, and people abusing him left, right and centre. And then suddenly, when he comes out with the statement, Pellegrini,
Pellegrini also doesn't say anything.
Yeah, so it's all sorted then.
All right. So, but why is he not starting for West Ham, or why did he even go to West Ham if he's not going to start? He seems like a third choice striker.
Yeah. And he was already a third choice striker at Arsenal.
Yeah. So why would he go to West Ham then?
So Arnautovic is already ahead of him. Chicharito is there. He can.
Chicharito is not well for the last 10 days.
10 days, yeah.
And he's there. Then there's Antonio, and now there's the Yarmolenko. So where's the place for Lucas Perez?
No idea.
Was there a reason given on why he went to West Ham? Or did Unai Emery just want him out?
So he was not, in Unai Emery's plans.
Yeah.
So obviously, but still that whole transfer to West Ham's transfer,
policy
was a little haphazard. Anyways.
Yeah. Anyway, that was the week. You guys can follow us on Twitter @FootyTwaddle, Instagram and Facebook Football Twaddle. And we'll be back next week for game week 6, which has games like Wolves versus Manchester United, which is Fellaini versus Neves. Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, I think that is going to be the star attraction of the week.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll know where Baru is as well. Anyway, thanks, Kanav.
Have a good week, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Yeah, it's IVM here, let's go. We the IVM kids on the block over here. Just to talk, taking a break from producing all day. Coming on this podcast cause we got stuff to say. IVM Daily is the name of the show. Monday to Friday, we ready to go. Talking about stuff in our head. We might even talk about our favorite bread. Signing out. It's IVM here, the podcast network that's in your ear.
Catch IVM Daily, Monday to Friday on the IVM Podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Long, long ago, not in Bethlehem, but in a place nearby, there was a wonderful birth of a huge show, which I like to call Cyrus Says. A show that encapsulates everything in human history, from the first Homo sapien to the last Homo sapien, who's traversed the entire world and then come back to India. This is a show which tells you everything about everything. If you want to know, avoid Google, come to us. It's called Cyrus Says. Get new episodes every Monday and Thursday on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts from. It's simple as A, B, oh God, what comes after that?